Hey guys, I'm Nick. Today on Fish Facts, we're going to talk about the sheepshead. It's commonly referred to as sheeps, convicts, depending on where you're at, depending on what you want to type into the keyboard. Tons of different names for all of these species. Just like the previous videos in the Fish Facts, we're going to start off with some random information. We'll move into some details. I'll use my phone to help me just give you guys exact information on growth rates and spawning stuff and things of that nature. It's going to be interesting. I spent the last month with my buddy Josh, who went out. We actually targeted sheepshead. Really, it was like a week period. It was fun. It's much different than the last time I had targeted sheepshead, which was almost 15 years ago. I actually just threw a cast net on them. So a lot easier to catch with a cast net than a rod and reel. Much more efficient with the cast net than it is with the rod and reel. But either way, it was a fun experience. I enjoyed it. I wanted to go out and catch a few before we made this video. Just, I don't know, I like to educate myself as much as possible before we talk about it. Sheepshead is not a fish that we target very much on the charters or anything like that. We don't often use live bait inshore. And without live fiddler crabs, these little dudes are hard to catch. So I'm going to use my phone. We're going to get started on some random information. Let's start with this one. The largest sheepshead in Florida that's ever been caught was over 15 pounds. That's huge. We caught a handful of fish over 20 inches, between 20 and 22 and a half inches, and the biggest one was just shy of 7 pounds. Could you imagine how big, how long a 15 pound sheepshead is? That's crazy. Sheepshead are commonly caught between 13 and 20 inches and have been known to grow up to 29 inches. Now, I imagine that 29-inch fish is somewhere in that 15-pound range, saying that's pretty much the record. Those are monsters. In Northwest Florida, now obviously these limits for all these videos will change depending on where you live. Where we live in Northwest Florida, they've recently lowered the limit from 15 per person to 8 per person with a 12-inch minimum. Now, we took home some 20-inch fish, some 15-inch fish. Man, those little 15-inch fish were delicious. Just so you guys keep that in mind, they were delicious. Excellent table fare. People say they're hard to clean. I disagree with you. They're not too hard to clean. Just get them nice and cold before you go to clean them, and then they fall right apart. Yeah, they have a very tough rib cage on some of the bigger fish. A sharp fillet knife, a sturdy fillet knife, and you guys won't have any problems. Tons of videos out there to help you learn how to clean these fish so you aren't wasting any of the meat. Appearance-wise, sheepshead are light in color with dark black vertical bars, which gives them their stripes, so I call them convicts, right? They have teeth similar to humans that helps them crunch through barnacles, oysters, crabs, or any other crustaceans that they're feeding on. Let's see, the sheepshead spawn. Now, it is between March and April. If you're familiar with our area, the Pensacola Pass is absolutely stacked full of sheepshead and boats during that time period because they're just out there. People are just drifting. Later in the year, evidently sheepshead prefer to eat shrimp. So they'll be out there in the middle of the Pensacola Pass and they'll just be drifting with knocker rigs or Carolina rigs, and they'll just be wearing the sheepshead out. That's one of the reasons everyone lobbied for the reduction in how many you can keep, because there was just boats going out there and catching 50 sheepshead and keeping them all because they had enough passengers, and that is insane. Let's talk about range. This is actually pretty impressive. Sheepshead are found from Nova Scotia all the way to South America. That's a huge area, with the densest population being in Southwest Florida, which I found pretty interesting. We always relate to it as a cold weather fish. It's kind of interesting that the densest population would be in, I guess, the middle of that climate, really. It's interesting. I know the fishery for sheepshead up the eastern coast is just fantastic. So it's pretty interesting to see that the densest population is in Southwest Florida. Very interesting. Habitat. Now, this is basic knowledge, really. Sheepshead are found primarily inshore around rocks, pilings, jettings, and creek mouths. The fish prefer to be in brackish waters throughout the summer and move out towards offshore waters in the winter and spring to spawn. So it makes perfect, scenario for our area. I think Simpson River area has also been well known for being productive for sheepshead throughout the summer months. And then as the water cools, they move out towards the passes. We've seen them on the beaches all over the place. So it's interesting to watch them move from brackish water to a higher salinity to spawn. Pretty interesting. Lifespan. A sheepshead can live for 20 years and they begin to mature at 12 inches. Now, a 12-inch fish is 3 to 4 years old. That's a long time to get to 12 inches, okay? It's a pretty slow growth rate. 100% of all of the fish are sexually mature by 16 inches. So every 16-inch fish you catch is sexually mature and is reproducing. Now, just like speckled trout, the bigger the fish, the more eggs it will produce. It's pretty common through all of your fish species. Overall, that's weird. I got a typo. There's a big old typo right there. I found the species to be super interesting, okay? We had a blast going out and targeting them. It's not something that we do often, something that I ever do on rod and reel, and I enjoyed it. It's fun. Get up next to a piling, drop the fiddler crab down there, get ready. Oh, I missed them. Put another fiddler down there and catch them. It's a blast. Once you find them, they're very, very aggressive, and that was pretty cool to see. We go up to some pilings. They weren't there. Go to the next piling. As soon as it hit the bottom, you were on with the fish, and it was a blast. Now, there's tons and tons of information online about this species that go into addition about growth rates and spawning. A bunch of the resources available, actually, the papers, all the studies were conducted by Georgia and South Carolina. They're really on top of their game when it comes to the sheepshead species. It's interesting to see. FWC's website, it really lacks a ton of information. I didn't find it very useful. I usually start my research there just to make sure everything I've learned over the year matches the studies and all the research reports. But FWC didn't have very much information. Found that pretty interesting. I felt like FWC has done a pretty good job with this species. It's a species that really a random species. FWC is like, hey, let's lower the limit from 15 to 8. But our trout population is struggling and they're years and years behind. Doesn't really make sense. Really, really interesting. So I don't see much research done on a sheepshead, but yet they went out and they instantly changed the limits within a 6-month period of talking about it, which was pretty interesting. The trout changes have taken a lot longer to occur. I don't know why that is. Pretty interesting. Maybe it's because of number of fish you can keep and commercial sides of it. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know too much about it. I'd love to learn more. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video about fish facts. Like we said before, conservation starts with education. So if you are new to this stuff or this information is found interesting to you, comment below. Let me know what fish you'd like to learn about next and share this information with your friends. It'll really help them in the future as well, and it'll help protect the fisheries going forward so we all can enjoy the natural resources that exist today. I appreciate you guys watching.